Britain, more specifically, London Bridge. Crossing the Thames without getting wet or having to row was such a novelty when this bridge was built in 50 AD that no one would think to do it again for 1100 years when Kingston linked up with Richmond. There have been 4 different versions of London Bridge over the years, but none of them are this one. But nobody told Fergie that when she was picking the artwork for a 2006 single. Usually, the most famous historical landmarks start from humble beginnings, and London Bridge is no exception. The first bridge constructed here was actually a very temporary one, nothing more than a series of planks laid across anchored boats. Although it is very rudimentary, we don't know whether anything more sophisticated came of it due to the Boudiccan revolt. For someone who really liked her chariot, you would have thought she'd have the Iceni preserve it better. Some historical reports suggest that there may have been a wooden bridge present on that site around the turn of the millennium, although that's not to be confused with the Millennium Bridge, which ironically would have been a lot more stable if it had only turned. Another report indicates a woman was thrown from that bridge after being accused of being a witch when she was caught putting pins into a picture of a man, although putting needles into pictures of men is something that places like this will only be able to dream of with the way budgets are going at the moment. Stone was the order of the day for the second iteration of this bridge, which, although it took 30 years to construct, stood on this site for over 600 years. Quite literally the first Thames barrier, a wooden drawbridge would allow friendly ships in and keep undesirables out. Sometimes, however, the enemy is on the inside, as Southern Gatehouse, which used to lie in the shadow of Southwark Cathedral behind me, would have an aerial display of traitors' heads on pikes, including frenemy number 1, Oliver Cromwell. Ooh, nasty. The cost of building such a structure would have been quite astronomical, and as such, the incumbent king, Henry II, placed an infamous tax on wool and sheepskin that was so high that if means existed in the 12th century, this definitely would have been the subject. Further monies were needed, and the order of the day was to build houses and shops on London Bridge to collect taxes from passing vehicles. Over the years, those buildings grew in height, and as a result, so did the coffers. And you can take that all the way to the bank. Over the years, several fires have impacted on the bridge, sometimes occurring so frequently that there wasn't time to rebuild all of the houses. In fact, the powers that be were so done after the fire of 1633 that they decided not to rebuild the houses at all, leaving a gap on the bridge. This inadvertent fire gap meant that the Fire of London couldn't make its way across the bridge, and Southwark was largely kept intact as a result. After centuries of fire, restructure and redesign, the third iteration of London Bridge was constructed at the beginning of the 19th century. Now, only if there was some sort of monument to mark the occasion. Push forward to 1900, approximately 75 years after the third iteration of this bridge was constructed, and ironically, London Bridge was quite literally falling down. London had fundamentally changed, and the sheer volume and weight of traffic making its way across the bridge had caused serious structural issues, so much so that it was said that the bridge was subsiding as much as an inch every 8 years. After many years of delays, it was finally decided that the best course of action was just to sell the bridge, and in 1968, the American chainsaw and oil magnate Robert P. McCulloch purchased New London Bridge for $2.5 million, which is the approximate of $21 million today. Some people say that he actually thought he was purchasing Tower Bridge, although those rumours were very quickly discredited. Although, an American getting confused between Tower Bridge specifically and a specific bridge in London? Haven't we been here before?